Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome back to our radio Salguero Spin. Today, 21st September 2021. As usual, Monday to Friday. From our beloved country, Banjul, the Gambia, the bulletins. Now, the stories in brief, then after in details, in both languages, English and Mandinka. We start with Standard Newspaper. The first story on Standard Newspaper, let's brief it. The headline, Fr. Lopez urges Gambians to vote for a God-fearing candidate. So now in brief, this one by Omar Ba. A respected Catholic priest, Fr. Peter Stephen Lopez, has appealed to Gambians to vote for a God-fearing president in December. The respected Christian cleric, who is also the director of the Gambia Pastoral Institute, GPI, made these remarks on a radio program. He Reverend Lopez went on, "We have our voter cards all to ourselves, and it is left to us to use our common sense when we go out to vote in December. I hope and pray that we will vote for someone who would be able to move this country forward and not someone who decides to work with evil." So it ends there. So the other story, let me see from Standard, the top ones. This one, most Gambians want budget to prioritize agriculture. This one by Nyima Ba, Standard reporter, read by Hajaram Ayar Salguero Spin. Now, the news in brief. Gambia participates in partnership with the International Republican Institute, organized a two-day stakeholders dialogue on the budget allocation for 2022. The sessions held at the International Conference Center in Bijilo was designed under the slogan, "The Budget We Want." That's the slogan. To provide full participation of citizens on their priorities to ensure their needs and aspirations are addressed through the national budget. According to a survey dubbed Citizens' Voices on Priority Areas for 2022 National Budget, majority of interviews mention agriculture as a priority area which should be given due attention and better funding to boost the country's drive toward food self-sufficiency and curb unemployment. So that's the brief here, and let's go to another story. Down. GAF to deploy 250 soldiers to United Nations Quick Reaction Force. This one by Amadou Jadama, Standard reporter, read by Ahad Jadama. Now the brief. The Gambia Armed Forces will deploy 240 soldiers to the United Nations Quick Reaction Force. This revelation was made yesterday during the official opening of GAMCOI 1 QRF-1 pre-deployment training held at Yundum Barracks. According to GAF, this is a necessary UN-required training activity prior to the deployment of service personnel from troop contributing countries. Mamad O. Cham, Deputy Chief of Defense Staff representing CDS Lieutenant General Yankuba Drame, said, "As a civilized people and a peace-loving country, we have to also, in our limited means and capacities, develop our ability through our own sovereign strength to be able to partner with the friendly nations and be able to make a choice, and in so doing it is inevitable that sometimes we must be ready to sacrifice our comforts and take a position." Now, the other story from Standard, the court asked to strike out injunction against UTG staff. This one by Aisha Tamba, read by Hajjadama. Now the news in brief. The lawyer representing the University of the Gambia striking staffers has urged the High Court to strike out the injunction case against the applicants. The striking UTG staff yesterday appeared at the High Court Annex in Mile 7 Bakau before Justice El Sane as she had their appeal against the court's decision to restrain them from engaging in a planned sit-down strike. Last week, the High Court issued an interim injunction restraining the UTG staff, executives, officers, members from embarking on a planned industrial strike action which was scheduled for last week Wednesday. The UTG staffers had passed a resolution at their Congress held on the 8th of September this month 2021 to embark on the strike if their demands were not met. However, lawyer Abdullah Fati, who represented the UTG staff at the court, asked the presiding judge to strike out the case, arguing that the applicants abused the powers of the court by not feeling appropriate in the jurisdiction of the court. Lawyer Fati said the court has no jurisdiction to entertain the case and therefore urged the court to dismiss the suit. So another story in brief is the court strike out suit against Banjul Mayor and IEC. This one by Binta Eba, Standard reporter. According to the story, reads, a court in Banjul yesterday threw out a suit filed against the mayor of Banjul, Rahim Malik Law, and the Independent Electoral Commission to have all voter cards issued by the IEC in Banjul that were supported by attestation of the mayor removed from the register. The court also ordered the plaintiffs, Gambia Participates, a civil society organization, Abdul Aziz Gay, Councillor of Boxbar Ward in Banjul, and Center for Research and Public Development to pay $10,000 to Mayor Law and another $10,000 to the IEC. The plaintiffs filed a summons last Thursday asking for an order compelling the IEC to produce the list of all voter cards issued in Banjul that were supported by the attestation forms issued by Mayor Law. They also wanted the court to strike out the voter cards from the electoral roll. In their particulars of claim, the plaintiff said Mayor Law declared in the High Court that she had issued more than 2,000 rather attestation to the people of Banjul. According to them, 2,000 is a significant number of those registered in Banjul. So we will be continued after in details. Now we are briefing only the stories. So another story from Standard, which is ECOWAS tells Gambian press to be ambassadors of peace. This one by Omar Ba, Standard chief reporter, read by Hajadama. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has appealed to Gambian journalists to report responsibly during the December election to ensure the process is transparent and peaceful. The selected journalists and civil society organizations were trained on the role of the media in promoting participatory democracy in the Gambia. The participants were urged to prioritize fact-checking while reporting on electoral matters and ensure fair treatment in terms of access to all political parties during the electoral process. Journalists were urged to write reports that will change attitude by portraying women and men as equally valued and diverse, rather than reinforcing problematic gender-based stereotype. So we will be back with another story again. Still we are with the briefs. So this one is everyday story. Is Commune given 2 weeks to settle $69.1 million. This one by Olimati Koka, Standard reporter, read by Alhajjado. Now the brief. Following the recent press release by the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority about a suspension notice to GSM operator Commune for failing to comply with license conditions, the authority on Friday held a press conference to give clarity to issues surrounding the matter. Yusufa M. Job, Director General of PURA, confirmed Commune has been given 2 weeks to regularize so that they can resolve the current matter, not to move to the second level, which involves invoking suspension. He revealed that they have had several discussions and issues with all providers, but in this case, they had to issue a notice of suspension. And by the way, and contrary to what is being peddled on social media, the notice of suspension is not a suspension, and this should be made very clear, he said. He said, the notice of suspension is not a suspension, and this should be made very clear, he said. According to the Director General Job, two reasons promoted PURA to take these actions against Commune, namely, they have not been paying their license and spectrum fees, which is a regulatory requirement for every high-speed provider, and in accordance with these rules, all service providers are supposed to give information to PURA on their activities and especially on their plans of investment in critical sectors of the economy. So those are the brief now so far from Let me see this one. There's another one. Okay. This one, Gambia to play 3 friendlies at Morocco preparation camp. This is a press release from Gambia Football Federation. The Gambia will play 3 international friendly matches during the next FIFA international window in October. The matches will be part of a training camp for the Scorpions and will take place in Morocco from the 4th to 12th October. The Gambia's opponents would be Sierra Leone, South Sudan and Morocco. The Scorpion will arrive in Morocco on the 4th and will be involved in the form of a mini tournament with the aforesaid teams. The matches against Sierra Leone and South Sudan are senior category matches, while the one against Morocco will involve their B team because the senior Atlas Lions are engaged in a World Cup qualifier. So let's go to Point Yusufa and see their first stories and brief them. The first story on Point Yusufa, the brief and the headline first, Corporal Samba Ba, overseas medical treatment transaction underway. This one by Sleman One, Point reporter, read by Alhaji Adam. Now the brief. Corporal Samba Ba, who recently called on government to facilitate his overseas treatment, has confirmed that a senior health official at the Gambia Armed Forces GAF has engaged him over his overseas treatment in India. Speaking to the Point exclusively, Corporal Ba said Dr. Alikali Conte, Director of Health Service at the Gambia Armed Forces GAF, has called me and said they are working on my overseas treatment. It could be recalled that recently Corporal Ba called on government through the Defense Ministry to facilitate his overseas treatment before losing it. So it ends there. Stay tuned, don't go. We'll be back momentarily with other stories in brief. Welcome back. Still Lucian and Yusufa. Now the news in details. The first story, you want to read the headline. KMC announces 307 million budget for 2022 by Nyima Ba. Standard reporter read by Hajadama Air Radio Sal Yerunas. Now the details. The Kanifim Municipal Council yesterday announced it has forwarded its 2022 budget to the Ministry of Lands and Regional Government for reviews and comments in accordance with the Local Government Act 2002. The budget for the year 2022 encapsulates all the developments, services and administrative expenditure cost of the council, as well as revenue generation and equitable distribution of council funds amongst various areas for the coming year. According to a statement from the KMC, the council expected total revenue for the year is projected at 307 million and 372,000. The total expenditure budget is $307,222,176.35 bututs. Subvention expected from the government stands at 40,092,000. This, it added, is in the line with the provisions of the Local Government Act, which provides for a 25% allocation from government towards the council's development budget. The proposed KMC development budget is 211,035,000 835.35 bututs. 8 answer. So stay tuned. Don't go. I will back momentarily after a short jungle in Mandinka segment. Ya sama ko mado kal kontong to kendol nal kontong kendola hanbi ning standard lebe nyola kibar follow me findita standard ela kibar kungolto aning details solto nga follow kibar follow nyem men be kungoto KMC ya kankula ko iko ela jari budgeto kodo men be sol wala mo million keme saba million warawula budgeto ye wala announce ko yola da ya ki itol fanan be ministry bunda men koto be yin sabe wala mu nyimma bati standard me kibar of tandi jeto men bakran kan la jada ma air radio spin bank ko kan salsa to kono bi September tili mo anin kilongola 2021 ni sango kon nga continue sai kibaro fango membe akono kanifing municipal council kunun e ko kankularo ke kolla de membe ko ila budgeto jar sango ya tale ya ki ministry bunda me tol bakoto memmu bank memmata bankola ning man sakunda ringolla pour ka jiberol kala anin ka comment ka diamo akola comment nena ta jibe local government la loi men itandi comme 20 safo 2002 men de data local government act on comme o daylo atna foya de la ya samba etul fanna kebal ya jibe iko nyim bojeto nyin kodo men ya ila fita pour ga fere nyin sango men kanate wala mu 2022 ko abebe sodrin men kono hikaf mena encapsulate all development wala nyinte to lafita riwa ko men be kala anin serviceol men dokul men yanta kala moli anin fanan ila doko fango ka tamandi nyame ka men administrative expenditure comme la doko to kamen fere ol kunna to fango be dokol men kekan comme ni ata comme molla karola jol nin ku ka ton lawle administrative ni mo ron to fango la doko la wati o cost comme membe kanyen na kodo fi ni ata jibe council la karola ko anin fanan as well as comme revenue comme ka kodo men generate ka men kafunyoma men kuite wali komen distribuer comme nana tala nyanda ka tala anyama dinkral tema membe ko fon kodo men nyanda ka di area council la dinkra kotanol to nyin samen kanate ka continue ko yemen yitandi wolen ila kuma kawa men bondi men bota KMC ko council la be yillar mema wolen la total ila revenue be mu meo men ya projet ko ben deda wala nyenti drong million keme saba million worawula wuli keme saba taw worawula anin fula italiyo wala deda ka continue iko ila total ni ya be ka fu nyomo tol nyanta ka budgeto men nyanta ka domo insango men kanate wala tata ka kanyang million keme saba ani worawula wuli keme fula mon anin fula keme ta worawula ani woro butu tan saba ani lul e ko bari e wali kono ni ada jibe subvention ko man sakunda nyanta ka men kafundi tolla ko men nyanta ka soto man sakunda la karole be yillar memma woto wala mu o be lorin million tan nan ani wuli tan kononto ani fula ka continue iko fanan nying comme yemen la faje wala in the line comme menning koltata nyola provisional la karola itol buka kol men topoto of the local government act comme lual men be wol koto local government la provisional la lual men be wol koto comme act nying men ye soton droke o men set men ka diroke ni ataji be kemo kono sidla muang ani lul itol ni ataji be nyanta kawle nyini kabo mansakunda bulu bari jumalel nyanda ka nyine wala mu itola be men koto wala local government nyinti comme pro council la development budget nyin council nyanda ka irwa do kol men ko o kodo men nyanda ka fere ko ne ka men development budget yo tol fane men inatna melon tol KMC pro irwa la karola o budget nyin e ko at membe loring itole men da men nyanda ka lo wala mu million keme fula tang anin killing wuli tan saba anin lulu keme sei tan saba anin lulu anin burut tan saba anin lulu so ina mu kodoti tol yemen propose comme itolla development budget ni comme yanta irwa ndro kala menna kan fi municipality nyin kono yo ngajibe ning kibaro nyin se do attack no bala yes let me see so ngata nga IC nsafaro rahim malik nyolu ening aning IC ening do kotang men plentiful men yesa makiti la pro attestation koyin so after a second jingulo nying then sinana continue angaleo aning mandika kangol. Welcome back, still with Standard. The headline, Court Strikes Out Suit Against Banjul Mayor and IEC. This one by Binta A. Ba, Standard reporter, read by Hajarama Air Radio Sal Nerona Spain. Now the details. A court in Banjul yesterday threw out a suit filed against the mayor of Banjul, Rahim Malik Law, and the Independent Electoral Commission to have all voter cards issued by the IEC in Banjul that were supported by attestation of the mayor removed from the register. The court also ordered the plaintiff Gambia participates a civil society organization and Abdul Aziz K, councillor of Voxba Ward in Banjul and Center for Research and Policy Development to pay $10,000 to Mayor Law and another $10,000 to IEC. The plaintiff filed a summons last Thursday asking for an order compelling the IEC to produce the list of all voter cards issued in Banjul that were supported by the attestation forms issued by Mayor Law. They also wanted the court to strike out the voter cards from the electoral roll. In their particulars of claim, the plaintiff said Mayor Law declared in the High Court that she had issued more than 2,000 attestations to the people of Banjul. According to them, 2,000 is a significant number of these or those registered in Banjul. However, none of the plaintiff was in court when the case was called. Their lawyer, Abdullah Fatih Rada, was not in court either. Their absence prompted lawyer Samsun Silla and lawyer L.S. Kamara representing the mayor to ask the court to throw out the case and demanded costs from each defendant. Lawyer Silla acquired that it's tried law that the party that filed the suit is the initiator of the suit and ought to be heard on the claims and urged the court to strike it out. Ruling on the matter, Principal Magistrate Omar Cham granted the defense lawyer's request and strike out the case for lack of diligence. The suit is hereby struck out with 10,000 against each of the defendants. Magistrate Cham declared. It could be recalled that the same plaintiffs in June filed an action at the High Court against the same defendants, which held that the action of the IEC in conferring the power to the office of the mayor to administer attestation forms generated by the IEC for the purpose of claiming voter cards in the city of Banjul are a contravention of Section 12 to in bracket E in bracket of the Elections Act. It rules that she lacks the legal power and authority to issue attestation. That case is yet to be determined. A sources close to the plaintiff's legal team said they had intended to withdraw the case upon learning it was mistakenly filed. We thought we should concentrate on the appeal in the court rather than pursuing the matter in another court, our sources said. It ends. Stay tuned. We'll be back momentarily after a short jingle. Ya sama le madolo comme tu war fanya omenga kafu kan fi municipal takang indo fanamu municipal ko la nyinati bari sa fotong Banjul City Council ko lam membe denning Rahim Malik lo men ya samba kidula ning na katre fay korra ning comme ko kidula natina na ning case ning ya strike out le no moy kala boronda kanne ya jenkende karal Nimayin sabi wala mo binta mani bati binta ba memba karangkang lajalama radio spin bangko kang sa ngadung cibaro nyum fongo kono ko kitidla Banjul kunung ye fayro ke banta faylo la de faylo me ya wulindi meyo ma membe Banjul sata kono memo Rahim Malik loti aning na katre fay kodame ka foy Independent Electoral Commission to have all the coming welling in the pro munna yesamba menna wala ko voters card men be ye deda Banjul sata nyin kono men attestation wala assembly to ya men be ko meyolo men deda ko pro isa be bondi na katre fay katol be safirin dame ko men kitio samba kitilato wala kaning so bari kitila ya strike outle katenten ko kitila yin natana na coming the court also order the court ya order pour plentiful comme men ye sambandro kana yin kitila ko ka foi ko Gambia participate civil society organizational aning Abdul Aziz Gay aning fanan councilo membe box ba ward Banjul sata ko aning dengrame ka fo fanan Center for Research aning Policy Development pro nyanta ka kododi jo molia membe ko Rahim Malik lo me ya samba kitidla $10,000 wulitang aning dalasi wulitang kote na karte fay korda nin comme batanda no men kela tanin nala aning fanan loyal karabol be comme nin ko mo yole kanin plentiful katenten ko plentiful comme ni samono ke kayto da pour ka samba kitidla to ka me samon aramisa lungla kanindro ke pour mun na order wala pour forcer la ka je ko IC nyanta ka kayto bondi listo mol tobe membala comme carte file la kato ni men ya dila Banjul sato kono men jumala ya assembly to ya wala mu ni Rahim Malik lola attestation o formal men isu comme ate lo ni me lo ni ko order di proase o listo bonde ko nyajibe they also want ilafita fananko kitidula proase tuturo ke fenna membe ko nyajibe voters card be tu men yede da komen ni meolola attestation la semben ya kono ko na electoral roll komen na carte fa nyin kono ye be tutu ikana na ke cutting men se beti akoten riniata jibe ko fana India particular komen ila kol men ye claim ye kalame wala ko di plaintiffs comme ni mol men ye ni ko samba kitilla ye foko melo yitan nun comme high court ko she had ate attestation men da wala ni sede akaitol comme men tata fo wuli fula a wole deda moli men be sirim bangin sa taw kon kanana fanan ko anatna men fo ine men fo wala nyenti mu fenneti men o sia batal ay men dante comme wuli fula ko mu a significant number of registered in Banjul wala mu jama ye men register o koto wangin sa taw kono sembo warta bagel o be kamala ko none of the plaintiff fanan comme nyaaji be ni mol men yen kitio wulandi ten ko sinyim dinkra fulo kama wala meyo nyin anin na carte fay korda wol kono killing kabriel kitio nyin kuma ni killing manna na kamabe kitilato anin fanan ila loyal membe ko Abdoulaye Fati o fanan manna na kitila fang katenten ko nyajibe ko menginula na mabe balia wayatin ko loya sa sun sila min anin fanan loya LS Camara inadna na membe lorin ni moli membe ko meolo anin IEC comme ça from meolo pour bunna drong to kanindro ke kiti lala pour se fayro ke in kiti yinna comme ne ajibe ni men demand fanan tol kilon nadna kodo demand pour munna ni mol men be fan difen kan kiti la nyinto tol nadna kanindro ke kodo la ko membe ko loya silla ati ay commando ko that it is tried comme ni mu kitil te men loi ni nata that the party comme karakota ngonyna min yen kitio fon samana kitidula nyinto to lem molti men yen ko dati de ati initiato comme men yen kitio samana ten comme wol nyanta ke lamoy comme nyin kalamrol men be kerenten ate men dante loya silla comme katente fanan ko inatna commando ke fanan ko the court to strike it out comme court nyanta ka nyina ko la nyine men nyinin kate ko wato menna memu magistrate kunton koti jeto abe kitio te kan wato menna abe comme memu Omar Chamti anatna na song nyim IL or hil lola anin ay sila ye la molia loal men ye kanindro ke comme ko in kitio nyanta ka jenken Karla Bari amang kuma kotak men niaji be kulel men anyanta kala nyamen amanna na sotikaf mena diligence comme kol nyanta kata nyamen bari evidence manna anin fana men fawm plenty volti mammabe anila loyal so katenten ko nin sutning comme sante ye men foko in kitio sante hereby stroke wala ya stroke le kalabor nda kan nin ko ma bota kol kon anin fana na kodo fanan fo ko men in mol men be defend ke kan ting ko $10,000 e wonyanta kata momor ning ya nyim karakflo bela wolem defendantol ting magistrate cham yemen declare membe sirin kitio nyung kunna each of the defendants $10,000 against each of the defendants so continue it could be recall comme ko ning hakilo bakang the same plaintiff comme ni mo kilon men yen ko sambana june karo kono e file ke action la comme membe ko kitiola high court banjun sa do kono against ni mo kilon la men defendant dol titen which held that comme men na muta ko action la ma kangal ma la ko ni ata IC pour mon na drong IC menke ka sembo di official men mewo be sirin jeto ga banjun sato nyin kono komen kanana ka didaro ke fenna attestation wala sedaran fomo men a generator ya dida minto fomo nyin wala na carte fay korda nyin to nyin ko fomo le fil wala meyoti pour mun na kaje ko men be kato kanin kan banjun sato nyin kono iko nyi mu feneta luwala tinya luwa men bunda la karola ni na katre fay luwala tang tungun tanin fula bada na la bracket ko na nin alphabeto e o fana bada ndawala ko tunkun nyin luwa e wala tinya ay nyin kuwe wala tinya o luwal na katre fay tamandri nya luwanyin ko it rule comme na kitio rule nyamen comme that si lax comme nyi mu feneti itol ko nyim amang sembo soto membe kala authority ka bonan man loi soto anin sembo pour ka nyin kolta keke wala mu munti CDA kaito kadi o banginin kol ko nyagibe case is yet to be determined o case ni hanbi among determine man na kuta o court. But katenten ko sosiso na ko dan dama ko to the close comme sosiso men sutiata nyin plentiful la men yin kiti wulindi teng comme ila legal timo nyi men be seri la men be lori loi that or loyal thing ko yem timo nyi men foko they had intended comme ya katal non pour ka nyin case nyi fon ka bondi kiti la to ka nyinala ko niagibe upon learning kabri ya kalamta ko it was mistakenly filed comme ye file o men da among da anyam ako ye amira ko e wisot comme wala nyinte ko nyanta ka digi men kan ko concentrate ko ka membe ko wala mu ila appeal court nyinto comme jannibi na kudo wulind la kiti la karola ate mata nyinna in another court comme kiti bunda do kota nyinto so men dante so yung fanan danta waldo so ala barak anal badima la jadama air radio spin banko kan salsato kono kolbe loren tenne ning kitiyo mimbe ke kan rohi malik lo aning na karte fay korda nyinna. Welcome back. Still listening on Yusufa. F.R. Lopez urges Gambians to vote for a God-fearing candidate. This one by Omar Ba, Standard Chief Reporter, read by Hajalam AR Radio Sal Jorunaspe. Now the details. A respected Catholic priest, F.R. Peter Stephen Lopez, has appealed to Gambians to vote for a God-fearing president in December. The respected Christian cleric, who is also a director of the Gambia Pastoral Institute, GPI, made these remarks on a radio program. Reverend Lopez went on, "We have our voter cards all to ourselves, and it is left to us to use our common sense when we go out to vote in December. I hope and pray that we will vote for someone who would be able to move this country forward and not someone who decide to work with evils, or evil rather." Quoting the Bible, Father Lopez added, "If someone tell you yes today and tomorrow tells you no, you should not trust that person, because that person doesn't live up to his words. And if you don't live up to your words to the extent of joining someone who has been accused of being a witch and is generally believed to be so, then you are doing it for your own interest and not for the interest of the general public." Reverend Lopez said people can sometimes be selfish to the extent of doing anything that keeps them longer in power. They will prioritize things that will keep them in power over the country's interest. But as the Bible said, everything in this world will come to pass, he warned. F.R. Lopez further argued, all the countries that were behind the Gambia are now ahead of us, and we are last now because this country is not moving forward. So we should sit and rethink, as we had for a very important election this December. We should vote for a God-fearing candidate, and it doesn't matter whether you share the same religion or tribe with a person. All these religion and tribe things are accidental. I was born in a Catholic home. I cannot be anything other than a Catholic because That was what was shown to me. This is why whenever I preach, I say that God is not a Catholic. God is just a God, and this is why in some other discussions you don't hear about religion. All we look at is humanity and the behavior of the person and character. Now, you have someone who decides to work with an evil, who has killed people here and committed other serious crimes. If I decide to work with evil, then I will consider myself evil, and whosoever works with evil should be considered evil. We should open our eyes and look for what is good for us. We should be able to know what is good and bad for us. We should be able to vote for someone who fears God and doesn't work with evil, and somebody who, when you listen to him, you will be able to know whether he loves you or not. We should observe all the people asking for leadership and those they intend to work with to be able to decide wisely. Reverend Lopez further stressed, what defines you is not what you eat or what you wear, but the things that comes out of you rather. Let us look at the countries that surround us and decide wisely. Gambians are going great things. Gambians are doing great things rather around the world, and more especially the United Nations. But if they decide to come back, they will be hassled and called names. The situation in this country is quite disappointing. I pray to God to help us, but again, we should be able to help ourselves, because God will never come down to build this country for us. I wish that we vote for someone in December who has not given his words to evil. Someone who will sacrifice to ensure that this country moves out of these predicaments. You are at the top enjoying everything, but you don't care about those who are down, and yet you want to continue staying in power to the extent that you have decided to work with evil. I pray to God to remove for us those who, out of selfishness, decide to work with evil, and bring us those who have the interest of this country. It ends there. Stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be back momentarily in Mandinka after a short jingle. Assalamualaikum badono kal kontal token dol nal kondo nga kontine kibarol men be karanka angalawni mandika ngoto ila detail sol na segment folol komen brief le drong but say mutanan kana ila detail sol karang FR Lopez nyimu prisleti ay kumando ke Gambia dong lako puru nga karteo fay Gambia dong nga karteo fay moy men candidato men abe silaring alanya membe silaring alanya ko nga karteo fay we ala forot so ngadun kibaro nyum fanko me kibaro safe wala mustanna la kivre porte wala mu Omar Bati memba kranga la jadama e radio Spain banko kan salsa to kon e ko nyincho men Catholic priest lebo te ka kawando le ke Catholic churcholdo memu FR Peter Stephen Lopez te ay abulola ay danro ke Gambia de wole ko nsa katanga karto fay moy men asilata alanya ko men pro ay ke president de December carte fawo men kanate ka continue ko ñi mu woleti men Cristiano clerical mu bunya soto bake ni nata fanan director lem nyaton ko le mati Gambia pastoral comme men ka yin kawandol ka la Christian dingral to la institute nyin la o dingra me ka fay GPI comme ayin dia mo ke abe comme abe director general yalo fanan comme ayin dia mo ke radio programo yinato me ka fay Reverend Lopez comme anatna ta tenten ko we have our voter cards comme nganna carte fay carol soto bulol ko na bem fambul ko ansa tuta munen tolu fangol ngaje ko nganna common sense na hakil lulo membe hadama de bala menke tamande ngol tambindi nyato kaje ko sinana na ka finti banta kataka carte fay in December carte fawo men kanate ka tenten ako ajikita ko anin fana be duwa kan ko ntolu mbe carte fay la mole men asinana na mensinana na banko sambano nyato ko anin fana not someone atkana ke atna kala moti men osinana taro ke kula men anin setano lebina do ko kela ay kuma kan boni nan ila kitab bangi do memu bible oti nyim fada Lopez nyin ay mel la fa ko ningata mo men afoy ko bi teng soma akoy teng ako omu feneti men you should not trust imanyana kala omari la katu ko omari wo atela baluo among tara lorin tonyakan that means not live up to his word comme apuka ala kuma kaonyin amantra balukan word anim fana if you don't live up nim ikata moti men itla kumoyin ebuka ela kumo ebuka sal afenke loakan yememfo moli ebuka loakan ako umukuleti men wota abe kafuta dulalto men aka kafu fenna men someone who has been accused coming nimfana kakafu mola men anadna na ke komen ngoti men akafuta moli men tumi komen ko bualemu animfana generally mo jama fango lata wala ko men to be so wala mo omoti ko nyimu feneti don mo kafuto be kafulo la o mari Gambian kol manyana ka karta fay o mo sival nadna fa ko den kolala ning atra ite ebe ko kekan men komen for your own interest komen imu feneti o mari ama be men ko men kekan ro o mate fangala kunna na falet bari amanna ke jamala na fatide o be men kekan woto bari bi koten samoy koten inata murfanan itata fo ikafuda moma men ya tumi ku jamala men be ko buaya anim fanan mobe na believe ko muari mu bualti ko wata sai tebe kule ke kan rong men ite fana kunna kilin kola woti ite kun kilin la ko para manke jamala nafati ka continue nyin Reverend Lopez anata na foko ako molu sa kata comment can sometimes be selfish comment mold sometimes ika katale furuka ke selfish wala monti wrong kunna nafarro e man do ko tan sula ka futa dinkrato men kanana kolike men ko kurni sa kenole pour mun na drong e sitarno wati janna pour sembo nyinto mosival comment akol fanan ka sotle comment nyin selfish solte anim fana ko to mo kilon binana mune kela ebe kol men follow kela o be kol men kela ka men ka prioritize comme men abe kela nyato kolti kol kongoti o be kela muneti rom men binana kate tu sembota bo kol la prioritize la pour asitu sembota nyamen men te kela bankola nafati ako bari as the bible comme bible la kitab bay memfo ko everything ko kurning in dunia kono ko kurnin in dunia kono obina obe tambilale ko kilim bokatu ala foro nyindo ay dandalaro ke o mosi falla ko nyin e fa Lopez nyin anatna tenten ay kumando ke fanan ko nyajibe all the countries bankol be ko men eventual common Gambia do men nyato num babake ako sai wol bentol nyatole ay men dante ako we are last now ntolle mun laban kati ko akonna banko santen abukata nyato feren ate men dante ako be ni agibe nyanda mun kela kasi ngamira kotake purumuna as we had to for comme wala nyinde to mitakan karte fawo men akumata babake in December men kanata wala na nyanda kasi ngamira babake de nyin kola ako nyanda men kela ko la nyinde ko ka kartota ka fay momen candidate men iba fay lay men abe kal alas slanya molet sa katanga karto fay wol way an akana ke and it doesn't matter akana ke cook hana man ka cook whether you say comme inu mari fo albemu dina kilon wolleti bang al musikilon tibang ako kana mata o kana ke la ko kana kuma ko nyin kono ay ke mo kendo do membe sila alanya ako niaji be nyin dinol be anin nyin siol be ako nyin mu fenati things are accidental comme nyin ibe fintla dame bukalong ite ka finti men kono ke je wala kon akate wuluta catholic suole kono niaji be ate cannot be anything other than that. Atikeno la kukoti naman ke woti kake katolo go damata asikena wol bara wuluto kor dala kono katu ko niagibe that was what was shown to me yola itandala ya karandi wala wala tara nadna continue fana ko this is why nginam koti ko whenever what natabe preaching wala mabe mol kawandi kan ele chocho yunda kanyim foko ala is not a Catholic ala manke Catholic denoted ala manke wot anim fana God manke alamanke fanang ko and this is why ako God is just a God comme alamu ngina dutron atemu alalta manke fengo fente kotake na manke alati amanke muslim ti amanke christian that la foro nyinto ako in some other discussions comme kukoton la kachala karola menga kage ako you don't hear comme buka moy ko niajibi ko buka moy ko about religion comme wala mu dino la karola ni nata anim fanan ko all we look be kamen jibe wala nyinti ko hadamadiya anim fanan daji ko comme mol la karakta ibe nyame ko wala jibe bake jama na kachal kono mbuka dino jibe jetode kamen jibe ron wala ay nyin kuma kangol men foten katenteng ako sai niagibe we have someone coming ngamola sort of men who decide men pareta sai puru aning mol setano se do ko setano men ay mol fa anim fanang here and committed other serious crimes comme mol meo manya ke men ay moja mafa setano nyin ay moja mafa anim fana ay ku jaw jamake ka men serious crimes ako ning if I decide come nintenata purka pare ning setano e doko ako woto then I will consider so mol nyanta nte fang jala ko nte fang mo setano de and whosoever momor ning fana nata amarinat na anin setano be doko kekan woto fanang nyanta kaje ko setano la ka continue ako nyanta hakilo o nyae la kendeke ngajibe roke what is good for us mem beti atan tolla nyanta nga nyaile kendeke sai meme kering banko ka be dandala roki kan wala be karro fayla me in salon ako we should be able to know nyanta kalong sa lonnole nyanta kalong fana ko is good or bad for us for nying mo nyim membe karro fayla den fo abe beti alan tol fele bang na asita o fa be jawalan tol fele nyanta kolong anim fana nyanta ka kata purumu nga karto fay moye meng abe kala ala nyasilana moliti ate kala moti meng aning sitano lebina dokola aning fana abe kala molti fana meng when you listen to him ni lamoyala ko you will be able to know ibina alonna whether fo nying ay kanu lebang fame kanu o mosifa ni daile ni diamata ko nyanta ka karto fay meng nyanta ko long ako nyanta ka korosro ke bage fanan ko mol min bebe kanindro ke kan nyaton kaya la anim fanan min fanan pareta purka je ko inana ka doko ke purmunna doko men abe iba decide la wisely intend to work with and to able to decide wisely. Coming nyaton ko min abekala nyaton ka kendolti min be parela ka do ko ke animol min sinana ku kendo ngani bankoy coming ala kumotata anada o mosiva ko nyanda ka o korosi bake kandidato nyun kono katenteng Reverend Lopez na kunyim bambandi de komen komen akitabulu kuti men akolata baka a yitandi ko ni ajibe kol ka yitandi inka kol ka yitandi nyamen men be ko you is not what you eat komen kol ka yitandi nyamen komen ta ka yitandi nyamen ebuka o domoro fanan okay ebuka o domoro sifake anim fanan ebuka offensive adun komen hadamade ka yitandi nyamen amanka komen ka domoro menke anim fanan ika fengomen don ako what defines you is not what you eat komen menke itandi o manke komen ika mendomo oron ika mendon ako bari ni ajibe kolla ko ka fintina nyamen of you ite fongola karola ako nsa gibe let us look at the countries nga bankol gibe men yemtol murmurung ko sinaje ko sina kol tano nyin karta fa men kanaten hakili maya kono ako Gambia dingol ako ntol we are doing great things ko men Gambia dingol be ku kende jamale ke kan ni na dagi be dunia kono anim fanan ni na dagi be mo ko men jama fam ni agi be wol men be UN ko bari if they decide to come ni la fira kana murna sokon ako ibinana na hasul lale kotake hasul anim fanan call them names ke kumandi tol la fanan men manyinya nim fanan kaniya jibe be tung wato men to situation yin al halo men be kering na banko kan ko imu kuleti men akeda bonkoton kubalti ko men trema kuba mayilla mem ako abe duala pour ala asem makoy kotake ko I should be able to pronounce na entol fangol sem fam makoy no nyamen katuko ala tinana ka jina nduma de kanana banko de danye ay men dante anatna tente fana akwal abenyin kanu kanko we vote comme nana katrofa moy men December men has not given amanna katna amandiro ko fenna comme kuma kan la membe ko not giving his word to evil amanna atemala kuma kan di setano la de akon se katrofa o maria men atla kuma kata setano le ya I mean dante ako kana ka mo fanante ako someone who will sacrifice sinaki moti men aba niyo lala pour kaje ko to labanko pour ka samba nyato anim fana sinana na bo nyin kono sango sang alakanamfa o sango sang bengine kela mengina bekela ina bekela ako anim fana niagibe you are not the top ako you are at the top ibe santo item komen wala nyatan kolten ibe ko be enjoy kan niagibe ako bari e man kia kotake mol men be duma anim fana yet hansai ko you want to continue ila fita hanbi ka continue kata ka tu sembo nyento pour ka futa ko niagibe dinkrado damen you have decided oleng into do ite pareta munna drong pour ko continue o sembo nyento side ite lafite inin setano e do koke akabe duala pour ala pour kanana je ko ka bondroke je comme those who o molla men selfish ta comme mo kotala ko sula foto kunna kodrong ito damma be ala danna for ala se o mosival bondi nyato ako fanan kanana ka taro ke fenna ko purmuna to walk with evils o mo kilingol men kanana ka pare ko la drong ning setano do ko ke purmuna drong bring us those who have interest in following into drong sina je ko men sinana mol sambanyena men binana ajala ko memu bankola nafati bari ni selfie solteng men inin setano be do ko kala o mare nyol nyanta kawolta kawol bondije kabe ala danna wala be duala o fanana sinaje ko nsi mol sambana men sinana bankola nafa soto ala kuma kan danta dame so ala baraka annal badima lagi ala air radio Spain banko kam mina nyato do manni Yo assalamualaikum badingolo comme ngamen karanno ngawla brief kota ke na YouTube channel to jang aning details men nge karang dol bije mol be karang ngawla brief da malake membe ko pura ning commune la ko pura ye til lokum fula ye wala di pro jilo membe commune la membe ko million taworo anin kono do wuli chame pour ya settle lokum fula kono mengi safe ulemati kokalamu so ka continue ko nyaaji be santen in a press release on mem bonde wala kuma kan me ya bonde by the public utilities authority wala purati ke kumandi menela acronym ko ye londroke ko be londroke la a notice o comme kanyunu kalamtandi follow wala mu GSM company member ko menika sim card operate itomu community murumun na drong e manna na kolka anyama me nyanta kake ila laisinol la conditional nyinto comme ila laisino membe lari ning nyin jamala nyin dinkra tema me ka for public utilities regulatory authority pura jumalon la ye presmen ke comme ning a conference nyin ko ye teniandro ko kwalla ko membe den nyinna ko wolunna ila condition of nyamen ila license condition of nyamen men ima comply katenten Yusufa job memu director ti general pura nyinto ayin seriandi ko on safo ayin ko kalamtandi commune ko ye lokum fula ye wala di prusela ko nyinta kadida ay betia membe ning itema ko that can resolve all na kala koti membe kolbe tobenla santen nim ko be caring yada gibe and not to move kuma satna ko tinana na kata simfa kutata mensina idundo koli kono ko so nyin londo me yafotan ko la company isinana na ko tamani government na invoking suspension. I mean the moment if filter in lokum flola o sine fotandi o simvat le kanana suspension o keno lala bari sai ye notice le lokum fula pro isinana ye kolka nyam ka finti kota ke kata ye fintin ro ke kolla ko nyin they have had several discussion in ye kacha jamala soto nyin kola membe den nin comme provider comme menika diro ke ko and in this case comme nyin ko nyin kono in case ni ko they had to issue a notice comme wala nyin detron foi notice nyanta ka notice o de comme munna wala mu suspension o ke la ko nyin ke kalam tan ko ba londla anim fanan and by the way comme nyala ko nyaji be karakotela to what membe ko pin pedul membe tamakang social media wala internet bundal to ko ye notice all di ko tol notice all di suspension notice bari amanka ko etol yin la company le suspend comme ninkumu misinterpretation o menga social media viral kafale comme mol kafo ko ye suspend bar kibaro fanan findita wala nya comme sanne ya senandi za fo onyama ko amanke comme ye suspend bari comme ye notice la ko ni man ila area so jo julome nyanta ka jo ila license la conditional nyanta ka menjo to comply and resolve it nonde binana ila doko wala lon la Gambia bank koka ko nyimo fenete and this should be made very clear comme be in ko nyanta ka senia molla men ba pedal ka men ba janjani kan internet bundal ay mem dante ay itan doga fanati director general job nya ko kufula men natna pura asabu ko pro in action men ya taten comme yun kan ko kufula lotinna to tolla ko membe ko they have not been comme bukat ila laisino lejo anila spectrum comme ila dinkra ka tamandi nyame banko kan wala fi ani fana which is a regulatory comme même if quality in purang in kol men yedi daten comme nyanta tarla men kodo sula kole ka men requirement for every high speed comme momo ka nyim fentaring membe ko internet o nyin o kokurne na o provider nyin nyanta katra men kodo anin fana in accordance anyanta anin men nyanta kata nyola wolen rules sartol men de larum tamandrinyal and service ol fana men ka di comme provider service providers comme men ka service o di o provider ten ko nyanta ka to give information pour que information o di itol pura fangla comme service o me ka di on their activities comme men ke kan and especially sako fang niaji be on their plans comme ferol men yelandi pour mona ka safaro men iba ke kan comme ga men investment in critical sector comme dingramen be ko nying niaji be bankola economy sectors of the economy comme economy la carol natna tentem fanan ko also speaking otumo mo fanan be diam ga men ka fo mata ture memu nyaton koti economy solem kuma te irwa safaro la irwa wala karang comme atebe do ko la pural in public utility regulatory authority nyindo kuna na kuma kan wona ko commune us comme commune nyin oye julomen soto masakunda la karola tada fo million taworo anin kononto anin cheme wuli cheme ko men ila license la karola anila spectrum fee pour in sango men tambita ten wala 2021 anin nyinan sang ayni fofana ko these are issues in quality men directly katat within pour us mandate mu quality nyin atambita pour la mandate lo ko la nyanta tamala wala ko la ko katugo akobari there are order outstanding kuko den dol fanombe je men jilol la karola men man finti ko that they owe to other state institution comme wala bankola karakotan la doku la karakotan ol fanan dingral bi jil men jilo soto in wolte ma bari to le men fota wotata directly within pura to ligo ko do la fota mar do ko ta o e mol fo ndungol fanan bi jele nun kum commune dar la sai ko fota de kankoroto le e man fitifitale e man ko ku keno so ngana continue fanan ngajibe nanga story man jamfa ngo fanan brief sandeng nga details ali domani ngajibe and because matla details so karang angaloto backing a brief letter so wala mu ECOWAS tells Gambian press to be ambassadors of peace so ying Omar Bala asafi wala mu Standard Chief Reporter nying economic committee of West Africa state ECOWAS has appealed to Gambian journalists come well economic committee West Africa na Africa tilijio come ye dandro ke Gambia la journalists wale purusa kada ye kiwaro bondi aning sobeala come responsibly during the December coming in December election men kanata ka jiko purumo na rong atanya sinana ka senea lankinama anin fanan Cairo nyinkono ko the select journalists comme journalists men tombong men anin fanan men be ko jama kafolten anin ye men karandi ko on the role pour do ko la men be ko media wala men kan kibarol findindi dinkral to ten comme in promoting comme kanana chikando ko kula comme da che wala ko to men be ko democracy ko blandi ko no Gambia banko kan media do kudlalto not attending ko the participants were urged to prioritize fact checking comme men be dabe kala ko kono ko ke ngodo men be ko ka kibero ke kende ge tonyala pour wato men na nibina kibaro bonla ina ta carte fawala kola and so fair treatment is na ke ni molbe muta ko nyala comme kilomiti men be ko ni ata jibe ka fute bela men be ko political parties wala wato la nyin electoral process nyin kono wala carte faw nyinna wato la men kanibul ko journalists were ought to write reports that will change attitudes comme journalists nyanda ka kata be ko man la ko sa kata pour safaro ke report o kuma kawo me ba findin la membe falindro ke la mol la manyala by train komen sinana kusa mana komen musol nin chawla karola komen equally wala mu ka mobe kanyandi ka kumayandi ni nata na kilimbali ala komen ka mena diverse komen mantra karakilina rather than janni be kukela membe kala ko kanana sembentu yako kula wala mbinakila membinakila man toroti ka mena problematic gender komen ni nata na taranyala comme musol nin chewol la karola comme mesina na ke fendi se kuma kan se warab akose warab ake ka men stereotypes ka continue ko nyin karandro ko the training was organized comme in training nyin karandro me ya kiteng men ya organize wala by gender center for empowerment wala men katra mol musol ni chewol la ko kunna comme na different noting o men ki sembentu ya anim fanan and development comme ni nata yirwala karole ka men GNCED la acronym men be Africa Television na in close collaboration nin be sutani ye bloody nyola with the ka men directorate comme men ka kol tamandi ke direct ni nata political la karola that is political affairs ECOWAS commissioner nyin kono wala na Africa Tiligi mansa kunda nyin na commissioner nyin membe marle wala o an office of the president resident comme office nyin membe sirin Gambia banko kan ni la mol membe do ko la jeto ECOWAS bunda nyin to Gambia banko kan ko nyin ko de data world ko the ECOWAS head of division democracy comme ECOWAS la nyaton ko membe to labma fon la o division nyin ko and good governance wala nyin wrong maral kendo department of the political affairs wala din kra membe maralem political la karola peace anin tenku Cairo anin na ma fon la comme ka men tankola karola jeto memo Emmanuel okoro du comme atomo wolte ay jayro ke baka kontanda kolla de ko media wala kibar bonlal ten anin civil society organization nyen kafol men kafta nyoma jeto for the role pour kanana ka do ko ka continue ka continue pour mon na nyanta ka menke inata ka bambantro ke kula ko membe ko democracy Gambia bankoka Mr. Okoro Dudu ayim foko akudi West African Regional Bloc comme na West Africa kafonyin wala Africa Tiligi kafonyin ibe sobeyaring pour kolla de ka continue pour si makoro ke ko Gambia in its democratization process wala pour ka Gambia banko be democracy men samba kanante pour be atamandi kan nyame be bulo be fele pour que makoy way betia nyame ko nyin karandro nyin district training is part of the many interventions comme ECOWAS ye memfo wala nginte ko kujamala be nyin karandro me ya keten comme natna na pour que dake nyin ko kono ka menna ECOWAS is making in the Gambia comme ECOWAS be menki kan Gambia banko kan to and so the country sustain wala skaje go pour banko se bambandro keno pour mona ala new found democracy la wala sante ngayin democracy kuto men soto Gambia banko kan an fane ko ad ECOWAS comme ECOWAS ya ni nata we are aware kalam radin ko of the important kola kumayala do kola menga be kikang by the media comme media wala kibar bondulal taning nyin civil society ka folla ten men be kikandro kikam pour mona banko se maral kendo soto nyamen ay kumakang men dante ka continue hanbi ko nyajibe the respected ECOWAS political and security expert comme nyimu bunya dingiral de men ECOWAS political anin political carola anin tankola bunda expertol ko molmen londo so ko said they cannot be functional etitano ila doko ya kanyama functional democracy wala democracy men betia without natra vibrant media mansoto ni media mansoto men abe kuma la je comme molsa je comme ka doko ke men abetia da kallanki ata ka men vibrant media natna tenten fana ko di director comme nyaton ko men be yin dinkra de ka men agenda center for empowering development ko ka fay tawid Esther ay kumandro ke journalist wala wala kibar safalal kibar talal ko to consider ka jeko pour mon agenda wala sensitive wala mutro musol ni wala karola e mukule men kumata bakele pour mun na reporting na comme kibarol ke bonde as a key principal ni mu fenete men wolbe loren kol tanya la men kumata ta professional do ko na nola ani media production o comme katolika men fintindi ka menna eta doku nyi ta tenten nyi kiwar talal den the journalists should ask a politician some gender relevant questions in order to address the gender gaps in decision making wala nginte ko journalist wol nyanta ka kata ka politician wol nginen ka pour munna kola men be kumare musol nen kema kewol tema kola ko men nina ta nginen karol la men sinati na ko sinaje topoto ro keno nina ta nyin gender gap ko men musol nen kewol tema nyin kol men man kun itema ko men ka men gap nyim keno be jeto pour sina taro ko kola sina men dano ay men fu fanam ko si because she said, she said politicians should be asked now how they intend to address the issues of FGM. Walam drong ko ate musonyi ay memfo ko ko politicians nyanta ke nyininga puru ebi mune parendre puru ka nyinkolta ke topoto membe ko walam gender tondi kafmena FGM. wala mu nyin nyaka tal ni nyin kukata wala den ko ali mari fanan wala mu ni nata nyin dinne la futu jono la ten so ngute ni wala nim fanan create equally comme sinana feng de la membe kanyan dro ke la opportunity la wala manta bengol la kolla ni nata musol la karola comme men nyanta ka ke mobe na tentem fanan ko journalist comme nyin kibartalal ni kibar several should avoid reporting issues that cause division and hatred, he said. Comme musonyin ay memfu ko journalist nyanta ka kata ye jamfa ke kibarol bondi men sinana ke kuti sinana fensa mana membe kala kan tala anim fanan ka kuma kan injaw funyola comme konnante ya kolten ay men dante anim fanay ko di GP wala Gambia la press union et la vice president tonyin memu Muhammad S Bati comme enjoying ka kafu journalist wala ka jeko ka reportota baru munna professionally wala ngintro ka fembondi men asike do kunola karoti molam kibaro nyinte anim fanan ka diro ke due diligence ko kata be nyame nyanta ka di o nyama wala membo ko tonya keso nyanta ka wala fo manyana ka kol sembendi karala o ga kulu kijeto men e manyana ka nyanta munake la ron due diligence comme ko nata nyama be nyamen tonya la karola ya findini o nyam. And he said the training is very timely as the country prepares for what would be one of its 10 sets presidential election in history. Comme yina be kala fendi men yin karandrome ya kelaten nin drola nin doku sifala ko yin kila watola men banko sabe pare kan pour kanana ela carte fa wala carte fa kilon men mina kila presidential carte fa oti men komata bake ni nata bankola history nyin kono na tentem fanan ako the Gambia has never undergone such a high participatory election in its history, and it is less than 3 months away. Ako nyin natna ke fenneti Gambia namanan tarakuko membe ko sante momen biya daki nyin carte fa kono comme anamanan soto Gambia la tariko kono freng de men niajibe sai amantu fenna fo kari saba. So it is important that the media and the civil society are well trained. Olenginda ko nyimu kuleta kumada bake puruka jeko nyin kafolteng men be ko media men ka kibar safol nin kibar bondo ke din kral tuten anin kafol teng ka men civil society jama kafol teng karandi nyon ko la puru sinaje ko se check the process comme sinanyin ko tanya ka jibe ka yinka from the start ka bring a dati watola to the end for bandulala ka kalam ka jeko fanan ko that it is transparent kulemu kwa senata comme ka jeko senata anim fanan akita ayki kairo kono comme that it is transparent and peaceful kuma ka nyin men a bonda dan tawla so mbade ngolo nalbe dan lawol to bi fo sama fo nin alen kunun ku kairala so ala baraka anal badima ala jarama air radio Spain banku kang na YouTube channel o nyendo nal dunta ala kata aliasia alla friends olie alie na like button o ma ning fana list subscribe to the channel so that to empower the channel so anal badima la jarama air